Yeah,
I
he's turning
didn't
on
know what the book said.
that we're going live.
Well, he done this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So he ran it always.
And we are live.
And I only had one course in law,
And what was that?
commercial.
For those watching at home, please remember to keep your microphones muted unless you're speaking. Thank you very nice.
Oh, Greg's, yeah. GPS says it's only 6:58, so we can have.
By that, she was living.
Richard, I missed you in the budget preparation this time. I know you missed us.
I know. Yeah, about it, John.
Good times, huh?
Absolutely.
Folks, at 7 o'clock, does anybody know if Frank's coming?
He was going to try to WebEx in.
I think we'll start since it's 7. The meeting will come to order, please. This is the regular meeting, monthly meeting of the City Council of the City of Prospect, Kentucky. Today is May the 17th, 2021, and it's 7 p.m. 5 members of the council are present, so we have a quorum. Apparently, at the moment, absent is Frank Fulcher, Councilman Fulcher. He may join us anytime, I don't know. The first order of business is to consider approving the minutes of 2 recent meetings. One, the regular meeting on April 19th of this year, and the other, the special meeting on April 26th of this year. Does anyone have any additions or corrections to those prepared minutes? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hello?
That was Greg voting aye.
Oh. Thank you, Greg. You're loud. They are approved, and we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is the mayor's update. It's a little longer than usual. First, all of Hunting Creek Drive and Sutherland Farm Road have been restriped. Numerous residents had asked for this. Ron and Brian, Ron, our Public Works Director, and Brian in that department, they did this work last week. It saved the city a lot of money having them do it themselves rather than contracting it out. Saved about, I don't know, $5,000 to $6,000. Plus, we now own a striping machine And I just wanted to express my thanks to Brian and Ron for doing this backbreaking job. I watched them do it and spend hours bent over, so. Second, MSD just last week told me that they now have arranged for an engineer to evaluate the culvert over Hunting Creek Drive, and they have promised to share their findings with us when they have them. Next, as the Putney Pond, that's also being studied by an outside consultant, and I expect to receive the report of the consultant's findings and recommendations soon. And of course, I'll share them. Next, the Breakers subdivision, the new subdivision, has a new adversary. It's the Innisbrook HOA. They filed a motion for leave to intervene in the litigation existing between Sutherland and the Breakers. And that litigation's been going on for, gosh, I guess a year. Most recently, the court has ordered Sutherland and the Breakers into mediation. Something I had recommended to them a year ago, but they didn't want to. So the court has ordered them to do that. I hope it will be productive. Should be. The Breakers has indicated that they will make the community a gated community. They've already put up the gates. From what I can tell, this is the sole issue that Innisbrook has with the Breakers, putting up the gates. We recently had a meeting with Ms. Gillazan. Chris and I were both there. A couple of people from the Innisbrook community were there, including their lawyer. Both Chris and I told Ms. Gillazan that the streets in a gated community would not be public streets, and therefore the city wouldn't be taking care of them, either repaving or snow removal or any of that. Chris also made it clear to Ms. Gillazan that she had a duty to tell the homeowners that are turn this off, sorry. She had a duty to tell the purchasers that they were not public streets and they were going to have to take care of them themselves. Nevertheless, all the indications I get from Stephanie Gillazan is that she kind of has the bit in her teeth and she's going to go ahead and gate her community. So that's up to her. Next, so far only 2 people have applied for the upcoming vacancy in our city clerk position. Laura's still here, but she's going to be gone within the next 6 weeks. One of the applicants is a city administrator from Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and that city has an annual budget of about $60 million. And his salary requirement was out of our league, out of our reach. I talked to him on the phone, see if I could talk him down. He said he talked to his wife, didn't do any good. The other applicant is currently the city clerk of the city of Hudson, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver, Colorado. It's about half the size of Prospect, population about 2,500. And I've got a copy of their budget, looked at it, and looks like it will be much more reasonable. Now, I'm going to interview with her this week. Sounds like we're at the zoo. Ron, what's that noise?
Oh, it's Frank. He's just muted. He came in at 7:04.
That was Frank.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's where that sits. Next, in the ongoing litigation with LDG over Prospect Cove, the thing over here by the gas station. Most recently, the court had ruled our way in LDG's lawsuit. They brought the lawsuit back in 2017 and it's still going on. And they had alleged that the Metro Council, when it turned down their project, acted arbitrarily and without evidence supported. The judge has decided that that's not true. They weren't arbitrary, and there was evidence to support what the Metro Council did. Well, now LDG has filed another motion asking the judge to reconsider her opinion. In my humble opinion, all this does is generate more legal fees for them and unfortunately for us. So that's where that is. Getting close to the end here. Our new auditor is Strathman and Company. We hired him about a month ago or a little over that when the auditor that we believed was doing the audit of 2020 bowed out. Just recommended that we get somebody else. And so we did, and Strathman told me that since it was so past the normal due date, that they would complete the audit by the end of May. And I talked with them this past week, and they're still on schedule on that track to have that audit completed by the end of May. So we're getting close. We did get an extension from the state. We're also going to have Strathman do the 2021 audit. We'll do that next. Any questions about anything that I've covered?
Yes.
Ann Bailey Smith.
Thank you.
I'm not sure of the division number. I know what it used to be, but it's not that anymore. That's her name. She's new. All I want to say is it's great to be back. Looking around, everybody's here, no masks. Feels good. Well, we have an interesting evening ahead of us, so let's get started. See what's next on the agenda. It is committee reports. I don't see anyone here from the Forestation Board to make their report. Let me see.
Sylvia's up there.
Herb Schulhafer, are you
I'm
ready?
here. I don't see myself on the screen, but I'm here. Sylvia Quay.
Sylvia Quay.
Yes.
Go ahead, Sylvia.
Well, and Herb's here
I
too.
believe Herb is going to give the report. He's here too.
Yeah.
Who's giving?
Yeah,
who's giving-
we're going to team up. This is Herb Schulhafer. Lee is not able to attend. He's taking care of his wife with the medical situation. So he asked us to give the report. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. All the trees were planted that were budgeted in County Park, and they're doing well. There is a tree that's a premier tree that's going to be placed at there's the entryway at Honey Creek. And when our arborist checked, it's going to be a hemlock, which can grow to be a really fine tree. They did not look to the degree that she thought that we should purchase it. So she's gonna relook at the in the fall to see about a fall planting. The city tree plan was submitted. It's required annually. It should be probably in your packet, I hope. And
Got it right here.
great. I know if all the forestation, Linda Knox is she's recovering from illness, so but I think Lee signed in her name, and I think everybody else has signed it. If not, we will after you all handle it. Basically the other item, there's going to be two articles in the next newsletter that talks about the council um, uh, having the planting the trees, the new trees, that'll be talked about. And there'll be actually a little drawing that Connie Kuhn on the board, her artistic talent to add to it. And then there'll be an article, another article in the newsletter about tree planting. We're looking at we've seen the number of trees, the ash borer disease and the spruce disease on city street trees. The trees that border the street, not all of them in the city, many are on landowners' property too. So we propose a tree canopy program that is submitted. It's been proposed in the budget. And Sylvia, do you wish to talk about that, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can now.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I can't see myself on the screen, so it's a little difficult to figure out whether I'm participating or not. Anyway, as Herb said, the Forestation Board has proposed a tree canopy program. And basically, this program is to provide more trees and shade on our sidewalks. And what we've decided is that with the help of the city arborist, we will identify appropriate trees that homeowners can purchase at a flat fee of $150 and plant in front of their homes to provide such shade. Now, the homeowners would be responsible for planting the trees and also for maintaining the trees. And during our discussion, we realized that if a homeowner was to purchase a tree, plant, and maintain it, it would cost way more than $150. So this is going at a highly discounted rate. And I believe we budgeted $3,000 for the year to purchase 20 trees. And this will be supplemental to our Arbor Fest. So this is what we proposed, and we think it would be a great idea. It would go a long way to help the neighborhood and provide shade. It's also my understanding that other cities such as Anchorage have already implemented this, and it's going swimmingly. So I think it would be a good program to embark on. And if we do it and it's successful, then perhaps next year we can increase our budget and I guess sell more trees to homeowners. Herb, am I missing something?
See that?
No, I think in concept, that's basically the program. It's a proposed program, yeah.
Correct. Does anybody have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
Also,
On your tree ties, are you gonna replace it with the homeowner? Yes.
you hear that?
I cannot.
Elsa Riggs asked, when the tree dies, who's going to replace it, the homeowner or the city?
Well, I mean, the city provides it, the homeowner purchases it. So since the homeowner is responsible for planting and maintaining it, if the tree dies, then I believe if they're still interested, they would have to purchase it again from the city. From the city come the next time we have those trees available. The maintenance and the growth of the tree will lie solely with the homeowner.
So the city's commitment, Sylvia, is the $100 match.
So you got a perpetual agreement with the homeowners that whenever the tree dies, it's gonna have out to the city.
So my understanding is I'm not hearing that there's a perpetual agreement. So
Well-
is there an application process for when they do it?
I don't know that
You
it's.
said there's only 20 trees, right?
I couldn't quite hear the question, but I don't think this is a perpetual contract necessarily between the city and the homeowner. This is something we want to encourage homeowners to do. So we provide the trees, they buy at a flat fee, a highly discounted rate of 150. They take it home, they plant it, they nurture it, it grows. If it dies, they would have to replace it, and we would encourage its replacement. At the time that the city sells a tree to the homeowner, I don't think the city has any kind of liability as far as maintaining the tree or monitoring it, or we're encouraging people to do this, and the help we can give the homeowner is to provide trees that are friendly to the neighborhood and that will provide the necessary shade, and then they will take care of the rest. Does that answer your question?
No.
Hello?
What I don't understand. So, okay, homeowner plant tree. Tree dies, is he required to replace it? Or can he just go ahead and go on without the tree?
And so the question that you can't hear is that they're asking if the tree dies on property, if they are required to go back to the city and purchase again, or if there's, and I'm assuming I'll add this to yours, if there's an assumption of if the people continue to allow the trees to die. Now they're paying 150, so that I assume that they're skin in the game, but is that okay to add that piece to your?
I think that she's also asking if they're required to replace it if it dies. Not that they have to come back to the city, but is there a replacement requirement?
Well, I'll jump in. No, they're not required. They're purchasing a tree. If something happens to that tree, they're responsible for the tree once the tree's planted, And if the tree dies, it's like Sylvia said, if they want to enter the program again, they can, but that tree is their responsibility once they agree to it.
And we have to keep in mind that we're not mandating people to purchase these trees. We're encouraging them to do it. And we think it's a really good program that would be of benefit both to the homeowner and the neighborhood. So once they purchase the tree and plant it, if something goes wrong and it dies, I think they will be encouraged to, I guess, replace it. But if they don't, I don't think the city can require them to replace those trees, because all we're doing is getting local trees that will work for this program and selling it to them at a discounted fee. And we would hope that they would want to continue it if the tree dies.
Herbert, you almost done?
Yes, sir. That's the end of the forestation report.
Okay, any questions? Any more questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sylvia.
Thank you, Mayor.
The only other committee reports up for report tonight are the library and the history book. Sandra, is there anything to say?
Yes, the library book, our report tonight is really kind of exciting. As everybody knows, we're a very, very tiny library and we're not part of the library system. And our city clerk, Laura Taylor, had stumbled in the recent months on a program that would allow us to provide ebooks to our patrons. We looked into that years ago and it wasn't economically feasible. It would have been way more than $10,000, which for a tiny library like ours wasn't possible. And there were not a lot of books available at that time either. Well, the world has changed. The program that Laura found, we've done a lot of work in looking into, and there's two components of it. One component is called Overdrive, and Overdrive is the system that sets it up in the computer and allows people to interact with it, allows our our tags, our library tags, to interact with it. The other component is a consortium in Kentucky, and I believe there are 189 libraries that are in this consortium. What that does is allow us access, as of right now, to approximately 89,000 books. it will allow us, in Laura's words, to have more books available to our people without having to try to provide space for them in our tiny library. There's $3,000 in the budget that's in front of us tonight that would allow us to join the consortium and to have Overdrive set up the program for us. Then the ongoing expense that's involved, it would be approximately $3,000 a year.
It's a bargain.
It is a bargain, and they looked back, they've been giving me all kinds of information on both the consortium and the people that do this. And they have not raised their rates for 10 years. So it sounded amazing. And I've looked at some of it. I've looked at how they do it. Our library program, our inventory program is Destiny, and there are other Destiny users that are in this consortium. I have not talked to them yet, but I will be.
So if I want to read one of those books, being a Luddite as I am with technology, but I do now have an iPad, how do I do it?
You don't even have to have an iPad. You can use your telephone. I mean, it's really, Laura took me through what she had to do to sign in to use the program
And it's-
from her library.
And it's free to me?
To you, yeah, it doesn't cost you anything. The only impairments to you are, some books are available, just like our books are upstairs, for a finite period of time. Some you can have forever. Some of them are books that are brand new. Some of them, Laura got into this because she found an old sci-fi book from decades ago that she was looking for, and she was so excited. Anyway, it really does look like it will be a good thing for us, because we just don't have any more space. And as a result, we have to purge there's a purge going on upstairs right now. We have to purge normally about 3 or 4 times a year just to keep our shelves so that we can put new books on them. So this is a huge opening for us.
This is the same thing as the global public libraries, right?
No.
It's the same.
Some of them have it and some of them don't. They may not be using Overdrive. They may be using the consortium with another carrier. When we looked into the public library a long time ago, they were using another carrier, and that's where it was way more than $10,000.
They've swapped it now. I only mentioned it as that that's something, if you want to experiment now, anybody
Who's got a
free library can sign in and get a feel for
Right.
what you're.
Or you can come in and let Laura show it to you on her phone. But it's the same kinds of things you look in when you're buying something. It asks you your name, your address. You're going to have the number that you've got from our library card. But once that's in there, you don't have to keep doing it. You're going to put a password in. You know, after she showed me, I thought I could do it. So you probably can too.
Maybe.
Anyway, the only other thing with the library is we cannot wait till the front door is open. We want to have a book sale really badly. The books that we've got for the sale are all over the place, and the fire department is not happy with us. So as soon as we can have a book sale, we'll be having one.
Well, Sandra, the CDC just came out with some new guidelines, and look, we're all sitting here. So how about tomorrow, the next day, you and I talk about that?
Okay, that'd be great. I'd love it.
Yeah.
In regard to the history book, things are still not all open. I think that the CDC guidelines there will help. As I've said to many people before, because of what we're doing and nobody has written it before, you can't go and sit in a library and write down like you did your term papers. We're doing we have done a lot of inventories. We've done a lot of going to historical repositories. One of my favorite ones, looking at some old newspapers in the wet basement of one of the old buildings downtown. But all of those things, because of COVID, have been shut down or are not open. And the only thing that has been available is the things that are online. And we exhausted those resources a long time ago. So we're still ready to go. There are interviews that we want to do, and we've just got to get over this next few months because we're ready to go again.
Sandra, I had just heard this. I don't know truth to it, so I'm going to ask in terms of, is that about it being ready to purchase at the anniversary of 20?
I can't tell you that because I don't know how long it will take to put together. I would say that if we keep going with COVID, no, there's no way we'll get it done. Because this is not something cute and flashy. A long time ago, the people that were working with me in regard to this said, we want to do a real history book, kind of history book that has footnotes and everything else. And that is a very time-consuming process. We were just feeling that we were getting close to the end of the major research when this happened. And until we finish that, I don't even know yet completely how it'll be organized. I have a rough overview, but I don't have the specifics.
Is it Elena who's running it? Is that?
No, we're both. Right now, we're working on the research. We have got, I don't know, 100 and something interviews that we've done. We've been to multiple locations. So the writing per se, the finished writing per se has not taken place.
Oh, but it's you and Elena? Is it? Who's?
No, I've got other
It's
people. No, there are other people that will do components of it. For example, somebody,
It's okay.
I don't know. I can tell you haven't done a book before. What you're really asking is who's going to do the final edit? And right now, no, that hasn't been determined. There are some people that are willing to do it for us and we may use them. But in terms of the writing, which is where your question was, for example, we want to have a chapter in there because it was important to the farms here. We want a chapter on what went up and down in our area on the Ohio River. And that chapter will be written by somebody who's got that knowledge.
Okay,
That's more than enough.
the next thing on the agenda is the US 42 safety study update. Who's giving that? Herb, are you or is
Yeah,
Greg?
yeah, it's Herb's gonna give that. It's gonna be very brief. We are waiting. The city council's done what they need to do with the resolution. It's been sent and the mayor has signed the MOA. It's been sent to the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. We're waiting for them to send back the executed copy. And then we will proceed with advertising for the planning consultant. So we're just in a waiting pattern, but hopefully very soon that will change.
Have you talked with Cheney?
I have emailed him asking him status of when he thought we would get the executed MOA, but I have not heard a reply.
Okay. Well, that's all you can do.
Yes.
Let's have the police report, Tony.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Getting back off the MSD issue you're talking about. MSD was making an accident. Cover Great Road, we can't have this issue in section, these things on the Great. Oh, that spot.
Tony,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you come to the podium so people watching
Yes,
remotely
yes.
can hear?
Absolutely. Piggyback off the MSD issue you were talking about, Covered Cove right there, we were having a serious issue. I think Dr. Stadlow talked to you a little bit and he had talked to us.
Those with the water going across,
Yes,
sitting
yeah.
in the road, freezing.
The water would just rush coming off that little embankment over there, cross the road, flood, and then anytime in the mornings it was freezing and you would not see it when you came back over the bridge. So we had maybe one slide off accident, that was it. But we were continuously having to have the salt trucks come out every time when that came out and there was moisture. But they did a fantastic job of getting that fixed. So really, it is not an issue anymore. House watches are up quite a bit, but a lot of that has to do, if you remember this time last year, nobody was out of town for the most part. People were staying in town. They will ramp up quite a bit as soon as school's out. They'll go right back up. So we will be really busy with the house watches coming up. Probably one of the biggest issues that we've had for as far as thefts and different things like this are something that's not local in nature, but every department's been facing it. The unemployment fraud that was going on within the state was rampant. And if you listen to the radio out here on certain nights, constant reports for us, all small cities, people are using your identification to file an unemployment claim with the state. The governor shut that down last month, the entire site, because there was so much fraud within that. 4/13 was the last day that we took a report. We take what's kind of like a miscellaneous report, so that person can have that to take to their employer. They're not stealing people's identity. They're sending to get benefits from the state. And they were getting a lot because the state had a load of fraud. So that, to the point where they shut it down. That's what they ended up doing. Those have ceased, like I said, as of 4/13. We haven't had any more. An only note I will tell you about a felony case. We put it off as long as we could. We finally had a catalytic converter stolen. They've been going across the city like mad, stealing catalytic converters. We had one stolen right over here. It's across the business buildings that are across from the Kroger that sit there. People park behind that on the weekends, people who own the businesses. We hit that regularly, especially because if you go over that way, the Walgreens pharmacy sits by itself back there. So we're constantly back around there and around that church. Between 4/23 and 4/25, somebody got back in there, cut one off a truck and got out. And they're really good at it. And they got out pretty quick. That is the only one we've had. And we've been very lucky. And we've been on the lookout for it. That's the only one that they've gotten from us. As far as that goes, misdemeanor reports or anything that come out, few domestic violence, none that had any arrest, one more of a civil case on a stolen vehicle that involved an individual that lives out here that has a business. We're working with the Commonwealth attorney. I think we're going to find out that's more civil than it is anything else. People have done a fantastic job blocking, paying attention to what they're doing out here. I mean, knock on every piece of wood. The thefts are way down, especially as far as getting in the vehicles. We try to communicate as much as we could. The new cars, like we said before, we've talked about it over and over. The key right here that unlocks my car when I walk up to it, people are getting too comfortable and they're leaving those keys in their car. So, because we had an issue over in the Sutherlands, it's been months ago, but it's a great example. People come in the area, they go up, they open a vehicle just to see if they can get in the vehicle if it's unlocked. That key is in that vehicle still. All they have to do is push the button, and they do it every time now. They're pushing those buttons in case somebody leaves in the vehicle. The vehicle will start right up and leave. We've had, knock on wood, 0 of those since that happened, so they've done a good job. We leave, I'll finish kind of on this note a little bit, piggybacking on saying people are doing a great job. We leave patrol notices, and what that is, and if you want to let any of the constituents know, especially at night when it's dark, we'll leave a notice in someone's mailbox. If we see a garage open or anything that would lend to lead them to be victimized by somebody driving around here. Yeah, then the reason I brought up, a lady called and ripped into Rick, the code enforcement guy, because she thought he left it about her leaving her garage up, I guess. And he came upstairs and said, man, that lady's not happy at all with me. I said, we'll give her a call. She misunderstood what it was. But in case anybody asks you guys, it's us. It's not Rick. It's not code enforcement. It's us being out here saying, hey, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You left your garage and you're leaving yourself to be a victim. An example of that, Hunting Creek, just as you go in the entrance, we probably put 3 notices on an address that we're leaving it open. Within probably a month, they had their truck stolen out of there, keys in it. Not much after that, the garage was open again and the truck in. But please, if you get any issues with that, refer them to us. The patrol notices, I think, are fantastic, and I applaud the officers for doing them, because a lot of people will call in here and thank us and say, hey, I didn't realize I was leaving the garage open. I didn't know that. Now I'm much more aware, and all we have to do is make people aware of their surroundings, and you cut half of what we're doing. Makes a big difference. And if anybody has any questions when it comes to things like that, call in and talk to us and ask us about it. If they want extra patrol, and tell them there's never a wrong time to call, ever. A lot of times people won't call because they feel like they're bugging us. If somebody looks suspicious, pick the phone up and call. Don't ever hesitate to call us. We've actually caught people breaking into vehicles and different things around here, especially in the early morning hours when people are getting up for work. Have them call. There's never a wrong time to call, because we do catch people when people call in. All I got. Any questions?
You guys are doing a great job.
Good job,
Really
Frank.
are.
Thank you.
Okay. He's in California playing golf. Drinking beer. Smoking cigars, drinking beer. New business, the 21-22 forestation plan. There's a copy of it at each place, I believe. And correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see, who's up there?
Herb is still here.
I think this requires the city council to approve it. All right about that? Herb? But he's there.
I think I'm froze. Or- Can you hear me?
Is
Yes.
the forestation board asking the council to approve this?
The tree canopy program?
No. The forestation plan.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Would anyone care to make a motion to
Well,
approve this?
I'd like to
or not?
ask a couple of questions, since we just got it and we didn't get it before. I haven't had a chance to look at how it differs from the one before. Maybe you could tell me that?
Herb, did you hear that? Gotta love what.
You know, I think there's very little different. I really can't tell you in detail, Sandra, but it talking with Lee, it was very minor, any difference from previous year, last year.
Thank you. I move approval.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, we just used a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Got a plan for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Finally, we have three ordinances to be considered for first readings. The first of these is 2607, which is establishing the ad valorem tax rate for the coming, for this year, 2021, well, the coming fiscal year, starting July 21. Has everybody had a chance to look at that? And would anyone care to make a motion that we give it a first reading?
Yes, John, this is Greg. Could I be recognized, please?
Sure.
And let me check, first of all, a microphone check. Am I still coming over too loud?
Go ahead.
Okay. I would like to move that we bring this to the floor for discussion only at this time.
Well, if somebody made a motion to have a first reading, then it would be appropriate to have the discussion. That's just kind of, you're coming at it backwards.
Well, no, we can do a discussion either before or after first reading.
Well, not according to Robert's Rules of Order, you can't.
Well,
So let's have a motion.
Well, there is something to talk about in the event that we have a first reading and for whatever reason, and I'm not saying it will be, it is substantially changed, and then we have to have another first reading.
Well, here's the thing, procedurally, if there's a motion and a second to have a first reading, at that point, you don't take a vote.
I agree.
At
I
that
agree.
point, you open it for discussion. Only after the discussion is had do you ask for a vote. But you're supposed to have a motion putting something on the floor
You can
before
put it
you
on
have
the floor.
discussion.
You can put it on the floor for discussion. You don't have to put it on the floor.
Well,
for
we don't
first
want to
reading.
take everybody's time arguing about the rules of procedure. I've been doing this for 50 years since I was, never mind. This is how you're supposed to do it. And what's the harm?
So this is to establish the ad valorem tax rate.
Yeah,
So I move that we have a first reading ordinance 607, 2021.
good.
Ordinance establishing an ad valorem tax rate for the city of Prospect for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30, 2022.
Well, now, if someone seconds that motion, then we'll open it for discussion.
I second the motion.
Okay, discussion. Discussion.
Okay, I'd like to say that it's just a process thing. I'd like to go through the budget. I think we owe it to our citizens to make sure. We don't know right now. We probably won't make any changes, but I'd like to go through the budget first. So it's just really a timing issue. The process that this is up first before the budget is a concern of mine.
Actually, there is a change in this document from what we've done in the past. While the rate is the same, what this says is that if they don't pay it by October 1st, there'll be a penalty. What we have traditionally done is given a discount if people paid it.
No, Sandra, that's not true. The text of this ordinance is identical to the one that was adopted 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. The only time the text has been different was last year. We've always had this penalty and we've never had a discount.
So what was the difference with last year?
There was a delay in mailing the bills because, yeah, the whole pandemic
The
thing.
the timing differed last year because of COVID.
Right.
That's the only thing.
Well, the initial, if someone pays it early, then it is discounted from that. Well, I guess you're saying that it's the full fare. And if it's not paid in the first part of the payment cycle, then there's an increase. So it's never been discounted, is that what you're saying?
That is correct. If anybody who pays between the time they get their bill and the deadline of October 1st, they're paying the face amount unless they've got a homestead exemption. And then after October 1st, that's when that initial penalty goes into effect.
Thank you, Laura and Sandra. I guess I'm just thinking of the process that we're using here. Not trying to belabor the point, but to have this discussion before we talk about the income that we expect that we'll be covering in the budget. I would just like to flip-flop those and talk about the budget first and then address this. How much time do we have to do this?
We usually have this done before June 30th. So there's one more meeting between now and when we need to get this done.
When do we need to report it to the state? Or to whoever?
Laura told me that earlier today. Laura, can you hear the question?
I would say probably no later than mid-July, because the PVA needs time to print the bills with the information that's included in this ordinance.
Greg, is the concern that you may want to raise taxes? That's not loaded. I'm just curious for the.
Well, if we approve it, and then we need to make a change, which I understand that it might not be likely, but again, I'm just thinking of our fiscal responsibility to the citizens to look at our expenses, our income that's coming in. And so I just want to make sure what the process is correct, but I'll yield to what everybody else thinks on this.
I have zero intention to raise the taxes. What we want inside of it, we can. To be honest, we can stewards to do all everything else. Then we amend the things in the budget. We don't. There's nothing we've been discussing for the last year or more that is looking ahead to go.
Sarah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but is your microphone on?
Question. She's new here.
It's a little green light.
At the top, Sarah.
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Okay. Did you hear any of it? Okay. Well, just because the people at home have to hear it. So what I was going to say is I personally don't have any inclination to raise any of the taxes for Prospect. And I think I understand exactly what you're saying, Greg. My only perspective is I don't think we've been talking about anything that we have been trying to save up for or that we don't have the income to be able to do. So I think if something comes across in the budget that isn't covered in our current tax rate, that we would work on that within the budget to stay within our tax rate. I do know that there has been talk from other people about potential of reducing the tax rate, but I think legally, in sitting through Kentucky League of Cities, we're not allowed to do that. Now, I think there's pending litigation through the state, and that's something that wouldn't happen by the time this is due. But from watching the KLC stuff, my understanding is we are not allowed to take, I should say that the caveat is if you take rescue plan money, that you can then not reduce your tax rate if you take those. So that's my understanding. So we can't.
No,
Look-
I agree. We went
Yeah.
to that same workshop, but there's another component. And I need to ask if we have done the calculation to look at the 4% over the compensating tax rate.
I think Chris said he did.
We have,
Did we do that?
Chris and Laura did that.
Do we know how much our amount is? If it's
We're
not
well under the
4%.
4%.
Pardon?
We're well under the 4%
Okay.
bar.
Let me say this. Talking about an increase in the taxes is crazy. We have right now $3.6 million in the bank. The council has locked up 2 million of that to cover a potential pension liability if it ever came our way. That was according to an audit that was done a couple of years ago. There's still 1.6 million that's not locked up. Furthermore, in the 8 years I've been sitting here at this place, we have come in under budget every single year. Our revenues have somewhat exceeded our expenditures every year. To talk about the possibility of raising taxes is just not realistic. It's not sensible. There's no need.
Yeah, John, this is Greg. I certainly am not talking about raising taxes. I'm simply questioning a discussion on the tax rate before we get into the actual budget. It's just a process for me. Sarah's right. I've heard that we cannot reduce taxes since we've accepted money from whatever that fund is, the COVID fund. I don't understand all the legalities of that, but to me, it's just a process. Certainly, again, repeating for sure that I'm not advocating raising taxes. I don't think we need to. So.
Well, if you can't raise taxes, I mean, if you can't lower taxes and you're not talking about raising taxes, I got to ask, what are you talking about?
I don't know that we can't lower them and I just want to make sure that the citizens know that we have done the due process. That's really what I'm talking about, is just going through the due process of talking about what income we know we're going to have and what expenses we know we're going to have before we have the conversation on the tax rate.
Okay.
There's a process.
Is there any further discussion? Doug, Don, Sarah?
No.
Sandra? No. Well, then, on the motion to give this ordinance a first reading, we'll come to a vote. Sandra, how do you
I thought
vote?
we didn't have to vote on first readings.
The motion is to have a first reading, and I'm asking whether you want to do that with this ordinance. Isn't that the
Yes.
motion?
Yes.
The motion is
I
to
know, I
have the
just
first
voted
reading.
yes.
She voted yes.
Okay, Don,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Frank? Frank?
disappeared.
Okay, it's 5-0, so it passes. So, would someone please just read the caption of this ordinance, please? Right at the top, starting with City of Prospect and ending with 2022. Just someone read that.
City of Prospect Ordinance Number 607, Series 2021, an ordinance establishing an ad valorem tax rate for the City of Prospect for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022.
Okay, that's the first reading, and thank you, Sarah. So we'll move on to the next ordinance that's up for a first reading. Hope this goes a little quicker. This has to do with the Municipal Road Aid Fund. We do this every year. The estimated balance as of July 1st, the increases that are estimated, the total, all that is in there. Would someone like to move for a first reading of this?
Make a motion for a first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I have a question.
Question.
When we paid the bills from the paving this year, did we first take the money out of road aid or did we take it out of the money that we had reserved from the general fund? In other words, I don't know why we've got $73,000.
I don't know the answer. Does Laura know the answer?
More or less. The paving bill was paid out of both operating funds and road aid fund with the same check. We've got so little left in road aid because we had such a bad winter.
Sandra, correct me if I'm wrong. You're asking why it's not at zero. Why there's money in there? Closer to zero.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, now that I understand what you're asking, we took out all of the money that was set aside in operational funds, and then the balance came out of the road aid fund. The 73,000 is where we are right now, plus about 14,000 we expect to get from the state between now and the end of June.
So have we exhausted all of the general fund?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Now we'll come to a vote. Sandra, do you vote?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Frank? Oh, Frank. All right, this has had this will have its first reading. Sarah, do you want to do the honors again?
Sure. City of Prospect, Kentucky Ordinance Number 608, Series 2021, an ordinance establishing a budget for the Municipal Road Aid Fund of the City of Prospect for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022.
Well done, thank you. Okay. Before we take up the last item on here, which is the ordinance for the general fund for the coming year, I need to say something. The revenues include, if you look at the workbook, it's not spelled out here, but it includes in miscellaneous revenue, $450,000 from the CARES Act. It's not from the CARES Act. That 450,000 we put in there because that's what we were told.
Mayor Evans,
What?
check your microphone, please. I believe it may have turned off.
How's that? Is it on? No?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
We were told that under this most recent federal giveaway, we were going to get two chunks of 450,000 apiece, total of $900,000. Half of it before the end of this fiscal year, and the other half now. We did not know we did not know what restrictions might be placed on that money. We thought we would know by tonight, but we don't. So I wanted to point out that that revenue appropriation is shaky. And I want to go a little bit further. I know where things sit as far as what people are in favor of and what people are not in favor of. And I've reached the conclusion that this ordinance is not going to get a first reading tonight. Because based on where you stand on this or that issue, this person's not going to vote for it for the reasons that are best known to him or her. And that person's not going to vote for it for different reasons that have nothing to do with the first one. So I will ask just procedurally, if anybody wants to make a motion to give this ordinance a first reading, fully expecting that I will be met by silence. Does anyone want to give this a first reading? So it won't get a first reading. We will go back to the drawing board and see what we can work out, that we can come up with an ordinance next time that will get a first reading.
I understand what you just told us, and I appreciate the $450,000 because I agree. Sarah and I went to, it was quite a complicated thing put on by the Kentucky League of Cities.
It's over my head.
Well, it was very clear from what they are saying right now that the money has got to be spent for COVID-related activities. And because of the nature of our city, there are almost none of them. We're not supplementing the income of businesses. We're not opening healthcare facilities. And as a result, as it stands at this moment, very little of that could be used for anything that we tend to do. They've already said one thing you absolutely cannot do is use it in such a way that you're using it for your copay on a grant. And we've got two grants that we're looking at. One is a 20/80, one's a 50/50. And it looks like very clear, you can't use it for that. I don't know what will happen to that in the future. Okay, so the 450 is an issue, but I didn't see this document. I haven't seen anything relating to the budget since it was last Friday evening. But looking at the income, the other two things that are in here, an appropriation from a surplus for paving and an appropriation from a surplus. I'm not aware that we have a surplus from paving, which is why I asked the paving questions earlier. It was my understanding that we were using that money this year. And yet there's $245,000 here.
I don't know about the words that are there, but that number, 245,000, is almost exactly what I get. I didn't bring my folder with me. When I look at the most recent accountant's report of where we are in the budget this year. And if you look at the total income, set it over here, and you look at the total expenses for 5/6 of the year, and just do the math.
Okay,
That's
but this
fine.
says it's. for
I know
paving.
what it says.
Okay.
What I'm saying is it may say the wrong thing.
Okay,
What I'm saying is that number,
so you're actually going into our reserves to
No,
get that number.
wait. That number, that 245, that is the amount that I believe we will come in this year under budget.
Which would normally go to general fund reserves.
Well, wherever the council decided to put it.
Okay.
But that's what that number is, that 245.
And what about the pre-2021, 195,000? What's that?
Laura, can you help me out while I'm paging through here?
I can answer her first question. That one, just mentally insert the words "to be used" after surplus. So appropriation from FY 2021 surplus to be used for paving. That's not surplus from paving money, that's surplus to be used for paving.
So we're now taking it out of paving and we're putting into a general
No.
usage?
No, we're taking this, whatever surplus we end up with this year, which the mayor estimates will be 245,000 or greater. And we're rolling it over into next year's budget to be used for paving. Then there's an additional appropriation from existing surplus from previous years that does not have a targeted use yet.
Okay, then if I look at what we did with the road aid fund, next year, what would be available is the amount on the road aid ordinance that we did for a first reading, plus 245,000. Is that correct?
No, because those two funds are separate. This workbook is
No, I
operational.
understand. I'm not talking about funds now. I'm talking about available for fixing streets.
Right, but the road aid fund ordinance only deals with that restricted money.
Correct, but it's used for streets. And are we now saying with this line item that we're using that amount that's used for streets and this amount that's used for streets?
Yes, just like we
Okay,
did this
all right.
year.
I want to make a point as far as the road aid. We have a pretty good handle on where the road aid will be at the end of the year. What we don't have a handle on, because nobody can, is what's going to happen to us in January and February in terms of snow removal and salt. Our experience this winter just passed was horrific. I mean, on snow removal and salt in the months of January and February, we spent, I believe it was over $150,000 just on that, just to keep the streets clear. And that's why it's almost, I'd say, impossible to know what's going to be in the road aid fund to do paving in the spring.
Yeah, that's always the way it's been.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
I agree.
it's that way again.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I did only want to add one more thing to add on to your, Sandra, and we had already discussed it together, is for the American Rescue Plan money. So this is for people at home and for us from when we were watching it, there are very, very little avenues for us to use, but one of them, which I didn't think was going to have an avenue we could use, there's lost revenue calculations. Now, you would go, where have we lost revenue to COVID? But the way that it's calculated is a 4.1% growth is assumed for every city year over year over year. So you'll take a baseline year pre-COVID, which is 2019. And if you didn't grow by 4.1%, you assume any growth that didn't occur in that is pandemic related. So now the caveat, or not the caveat, the good thing about that is once you do the calculation, so I just ran some numbers. These were not based off the dates that had to be run, but just to see, hey, what are we kind of looking at? And so it was, if you look at for last year, and again, this isn't for anything else to plan off of. This is me I ran some numbers just to look at, and it's about 100K. So, but that gives you an idea of probably what it would be, and that would grow per the years, since we probably are not going to hit 4.1% growth. Yeah, and so the key with that is that that lost revenue money can be spent on almost anything. So now you open up infrastructure. Now you open up these other little things you want to do, and they are mainly infrastructure, which is great because that's stuff that the city, there's a lot of stuff that we need to kind of upkeep that has been delayed. But that avenue, that lost revenue is where it opens up,
Yeah.
Potentially.
Potentially.
So again, these were just rough numbers, but
But
premium pay counts. So we'd have to look at last year's salaries, this year's salary increase. There's a couple of different avenues, but again, that will grow over years. And I mentioned that because you have till December of 2024 to be able to use that. It is use or lose. And so I don't know how much that will grow year over year, but if we don't hit a 4.1% growth every year, then that money is considered lost.
Well, as of this year's calculation.
Yeah, as of
What
March.
she's saying also is that if you look at some of the other things that allocate money to us, it looks like we're gonna get $900,000. That's where they're.
It's up to 1.2. Yeah, Sandra.
1.2 million.
Right, but the problem with that is, again, what I said before, what you can use it for are not necessarily things that our city can do. You can supplement low-income housing and things like that. And that isn't the kind of service that we are needing to perform for our people.
It's going to be tough to make it to the 1.2, I think,
Yeah, it is.
no matter what.
Yeah.
We're going to be able to use, we'll be able to use those. We've got places, there's plenty of infrastructure we can do in terms of whether it's roads or signs or any of that. The US 42 safety studies going on, any of those things, but to make it to 1.2 is probably going to be a.
Sarah, do you think my understanding that we don't know enough yet is correct?
Oh, to have that line come out, I think you are
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Yes, 100%. Yeah,
Agree.
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely agree. And there's more information coming out all the time. I sent you a thing that just came out today. So it's, hopefully it will relax a little bit
Yeah.
because we do have infrastructure
Yeah.
needs.
Because to give perspective for people listening at home, for the CARES Act money that we got, we were not originally able to use a lot of that money. And then the act changed, the interpretation had changed, and then we were able to use all that. And it's because a predominant amount of cities were not able to use that money. And the federal government started to go, well, shoot, I didn't mean to handcuff it to where no one uses it. So like Sandra said.
Well, it's worse than that. What basically happens is the way they've structured it, they're giving the money to the badly run governments. And I'm not going to name any of them, but you know what they are. And the ones that are well run are not suffering in the same way. Well, we're paying all the taxes. It's not very complicated.
Ready to move on to the agenda?
Yeah, sorry.
I think we're done, aren't we?
Yes.
So we got citizens.
Yeah, comments from citizens. How could I have forgotten that? I thought we were done. We have 4 citizens here. Elsa, you're so shy. You hardly ever say anything.
Do you mind going up just so everybody can hear you? Yeah.
And make sure your little green button's on.
I'll come help.
I'm
You
so
come up front.
technically inept, I probably can't even
Oh,
find
you're
it.
good. It's right on top.
Don't tell Elsa about the green button.
Yep.
This one?
Just one time. Yep.
Oh, okay.
And then Ron will tell you if he can hear you.
Where is he? Ron? Is the mic working? Oh, good.
Here you go.
Okay. Here we go. My name is Elsa Riggs. I live at 6521 Harrodsview Circle, and I've been a resident of Prospect for nearly 50 years. And I've seen the administrations come and
You've
go.
got to talk louder. So.
Okay. With your permission, I would like to address 3 issues, which are one of many we have. You touched on that $900,000 or $1.2 million COVID bailout. It has a lot of federal strings attached to it. And you probably should put these funds into an escrow account because we might have to pay it back. So be very, very careful with that. You can't even use any money with grants. So I would just suggest to the council, before they use any of that money, to be sure it meets the criteria of the federal government. Sandra already touched on keeping the front door open during business hours because it prevents people from coming in. Some of our taxpayers do not own a cell phone. And then I would like to address or talk about the proposed playground. Councilmember Ms. Odell devoted a lot of time to this project, and I appreciate diligent work. After giving it a lot of thought, I still think this is not a viable project, and it should be shelved for the moment being. Here are my concerns. How in the world, what were you thinking about putting a playground that close to US 42, a main thoroughfare? You are proposing the playground without restroom facilities, no parking, limited playground equipment on a property located in a flood hazard zone. Top it off, there's a running creek on one side of Little Pine Creek Park. as a former insurance underwriter, I would not even write the liability on it. It's high risk. I think I would consider it an accident ready to happen. And I would decline to write the insurance coverage on something like this. The safety of our children should be the utmost importance. The taxpayers I spoke with in our city, most of them, I didn't speak to all 4,000 or whatever, are not in favor of this project because of its location. We have Hayes Kennedy, which is underutilized. I go over there, I walk over there, there might be 3 or 4 kids over there. We've got a playground. Before we decide to spend taxpayer dollars, we need to poll the citizen about this project. I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, sorry, watch out for the, yeah, sorry.
My name is Nick Nahorniak. I live at 6817 Fairway View Court in Hunting Creek. And I would like to request that the new stop signs in Hunting Creek be removed. I believe we have created a traffic hazard. I almost got nailed the other day when people come over that hill and you're stopped at the sign, they can't see you. And if they're coming over that hill quickly, they're going to rear end somebody. So I think we've really created a new traffic hazard.
I don't understand. How did we create a traffic hazard?
Because when you're coming over the hill, coming out of Hunting Creek, you now have a stop sign. It's right at the bottom of the hill. You come up over that hill and then there's a stop sign. And there's like 1 car length in there. So if somebody's coming over that hill fast and they don't realize that somebody's already stopped at the sign, they're going to rear end. It's dangerous. Yeah, no, I came close to getting hit the other day.
No.
Yeah.
So
If you're coming down, there's a hill right there.
Coming from the traffic circle headed down toward
Yeah.
42.
Saying the same thing.
I just think we created a very dangerous intersection there.
We've been up there and we will.
Richard,
I'm fine.
what, at Nelson's Field?
He's happy to be here. Happy to be here.
I'm Dale Dodrell. I live at 6934 White Hill Circle, Prospect, Kentucky. As the Stuart Miles, Luke Schmidt era ended, I didn't think I'd ever get up here and talk to city council again. But here I am. I feel the need again. As many of you know, I trusted and supported the mayor and think, along with certain members of the council, I helped save the mayor's job a couple of years ago. He seemed to have forgotten that, evidenced by throwing certain council members under the bus in his campaign last time. And as a result, I stand here again. One of the things that I actually am going to go out of order a little bit. I wanted to address the 3-way stop on Hunting Creek Drive myself, and I went to pick Nick up on the way, drove up Hunting Creek Drive and saw a car stopped at the stop sign, and a car came over the hill and screeched to a halt. The only significant thing about the space between the bumpers was that there was one. There was some. We almost had a wreck. There may be some tread marks there. You can go take a look at it. Why did we create a traffic accident? Have we had too few traffic accidents in Prospect, so we have to create a situation where we have more. I was prompted to write an email to the mayor on 3/29. I had a number of things that prompted that. One was talking about Victorian lights on US 42 in Prospect, which seemed kind of out of character for the city. Looked at the budget discussion as well as the Little Creek Children Park. I asked the mayor, why an increase of spend in 2020 and 21 over the previous year of 22% and 6% over the 1920 budget. Look, we got a windfall from the federal government, state government, based on COVID. You know, I really hope that we're a little more forthcoming about the budget that we create for the coming year than we were last year. The first time the citizens got to even look at a budget or any aspect of the budget was March of this year for the budget for 2021. 9 months had passed. How about sharing some information with us before you create a budget this year? I was a little relieved in hearing the discussion tonight that at least you're not going to increase taxes, which would be kind of crazy since we're getting all kinds of money from the federal government, as you pointed out. And also we're seeing the property values increase dramatically in Prospect, which is probably going to create another significant surplus. But the thing I wanted to review and comment on, you know, we really can't depend on the faux gifts that we get from the government. And I hear you talk about infrastructure. I hope we're talking about improving the infrastructure we have, repairing the infrastructure we have, rather than creating new infrastructure. Because when you create infrastructure, you create the need to maintain that infrastructure and the need to incur additional overhead expenses, additional maintenance expenses for that infrastructure. We don't need that. We need to keep Prospect the way it is. As I pointed out to my mother as she received her stimulus check, I said, you better get that damn thing deposited before Biden totally runs out of money. If Prospect gets another Biden bounce or Biden bucks or whatever we want to call it, please remember that the budget you create using that money may have to be sustained through tax increases as we go into the future. And we don't need additional tax increases. We're going to get enough from Biden and his bunch. Better save the money for the legal fees that you pointed out earlier, John, because we're going to have a bunch of them to keep this low-income housing out of the Prospect area.
Yeah, I know.
I also had a comment in that letter relating to a proposal to build a children's playground next to US 42. My comment on that was, how nutty is that? You assure me that this proposal next to 42 and in a flood zone with no parking, no restrooms, didn't have council support. And it didn't. But you cast the deciding vote to take that thing forward. No wonder I've lost my trust in you, John. Here's a unique idea for the faux income coming your way. Send it to your citizens. Rather than throwing it at unneeded parks, additional overhead, which never goes away, make sure you don't raise taxes. And when you get the opportunity, give it back to the citizens through tax relief. I've indicated to this government body numerous times, my tax dollars are supporting 417 U.S. national parks, services, and other places. Make that 418 as the New River Valley Gorge in my home state of West Virginia was made a national park last week. Surprising, since West Virginia voted 70% Trump and 30% Biden, but they still made it a national park. We also have 50 Kentucky parks, and we have 54 Jefferson County parks, including, as you pointed out, Hayes Kennedy, which has a nice children's play area and a very safe environment that doesn't flood. Let's send our kids over there. Last comment, we got extra money to spend. Maybe we ought to go back and rehire the lawn service that was doing a fantastic job, rather than the lawn service that low bidded us this time and is doing a terrible job on lawn service. It used to be really pretty, and now our maintenance of our green areas seem to be slipping. Let's take a look at that. We got extra money. Let's go there rather than creating additional overhead and additional expenses that we're going to have to support with taxes as we go forward. I appreciate you listening, and good luck as you go forward. Thank you.
Citizens on.
Any other citizens that want to comment tonight? Well, hearing none, next order of business is entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned.
And Mr. Dodo? Yeah.
Not have